Hey beer and brew fans, and welcome to Something About Beer. Written portion of the Certified Cicerone beer exam. Here's my study strategy, so let's get into it. So today I'm going to share with you some of my processes and methods that I used for studying for the written part of the Certified Cicerone exam. What I'm going to be sharing is, of course, my own personal process that worked for me. Some of this may not work for everybody, but I hope you'll find it interesting and I hope you find it useful in your own Cicerone journey as well. Now, the first thing I did was actually take quite a lot of mock exams, as I did in the beer server exam. This really highlighted those areas where I was a little less comfortable with the information that was inside, and highlighted areas that I needed to learn. I also took the syllabus then and really highlighted those areas that revealed themselves through the mock exams, and made sure that I focused my attention certainly on those areas first and foremost. With that as my starting point, then I was able to focus in on some of the learning material that I needed to really enhance my knowledge in those areas that were required. Now, some of the books that I looked at was quite interesting. The first one that I read was Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher. Actually, I'd read that before in preparation for the beer server exam. Actually, found it very interesting. I read it again in preparation for the written Certified Cicerone exam. There's some good points in there about history of beer. That's very interesting. Sensory topics as well. Really makes you understand how we perceive beer through our senses, and that really helps to identify some of the different characteristics in beer that, for me at least, ingrained some of those beer styles and characteristics into my mind. That definitely helped. Also good for beer styles and history, and also descriptions of the beers as well. So that was definitely a good read for me. The other book I read in preparation for the exam was Garrett Oliver's Brewmaster's Table. Now, I absolutely love this book. I found it very easy to read, generally, which I think was good. There's a lot of information in there. Digs into most beer styles and discusses food pairing topics. But it also helped me to understand the flavours in beer, which also took me back to the beer styles and identifying certain beer styles as well. So it wasn't just about food and beer pairing. For me, I really got an advantage from understanding the flavours that food and beer bring and how they connect. I really took that back to the different beer styles out there, which really helped me learn more about beer styles and really remember the beer styles and what characteristics they have. It's a quite comprehensive book, actually. It also speaks about notable producers of certain styles, which is very important for the exam, etc. And I enjoyed the read immensely, actually. Now, there was another book that I didn't actually read myself, but I'd seen a lot of reference to, was the Beer Steward's Handbook. Don't know what that's like, but a lot of people have read it and said it was very useful for the exam itself. So maybe that's one that you would want to think about. The other thing that I really found useful were the Cicerone beer style flashcards. I actually bought the digital version of them. And the one thing I will say, or the one criticism I will have about those, is that you can't use them offline. You have to be hooked up to some sort of network for you to be able to use them. You have to sign into your account on the Certified Cicerone website, and you can access them through their website through your account there. But understanding that, then I was able to use those in various situations. So, if I'm waiting for a train and have 10 or 15 minutes spare on the platform, then I can open those flashcards up. Or even if, indeed I'm on a train, or somewhere where I'm sat waiting for something, it's easy to open that up and just take a look even if you're just looking at one or two styles. What I also liked about that was the random program. For me, that was very good. What I did is basically put it on the random program, click next, basically covered everything up and looked at the actual beer style, the name of the beer, whatever it may be, Schwarzbier, for example. And then in my head, I guessed the ABV, the IBUs, the SRM, etc., and some of the other characteristics, and then had a look to see how close I was in a range. I mean, I wasn't looking at trying to pinpoint absolutely every number, but that really helped me ingrain some of those styles into my head on a high level. In terms of those numbers. And of course, the BJCP style guidelines were also extremely useful. Generally, the information in there is similar to the flashcards, but a lot more detail, which of course is also interesting to really dig into some of the history and other characteristics of certain beer styles, which I found interesting anyway, so that was quite easy for me to read, really. But what it also does is again goes into the ingredients and the flavours and the aroma profiles, etc. And it helped me compartmentalize some of the styles. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking at let's say 4% light coloured beer, and you need to determine what that is, of course there's things then you can start to reject in that area. It's not going to be a Belgian blonde or a triple or beer de garde, for example. So those things were quite interesting for me to really narrow down some of the styles into buckets. That was quite useful during the exam as well. The draft beer glossary I found quite useful as well. It was good to really ingrain some of the terminology into my brain, and also to start using that on a daily basis when talking about beer, to extend my vocab, which is useful, particularly when you're in the exam and there's certain questions asked and certain vocab used, perhaps. So that was useful. And from the Brewers Association, I also found brief beer and food matching chart on there. It's pretty high level, but I also found that quite useful. It really is a good tool to get a general grasp of beer and food pairings on a general level. It really put me in the ballpark as to what flavours go with what flavours don't go with certain things as well, so that then I could start to develop my own ideas and a deeper understanding of what certain flavours and what beers may go with certain foods. And one of the things I did in that area, of course, is drink more beer with food, of course, which of course is always nice to do. So now, continuing with beer styles as such, one of the things that I actually used was a beer style discrimination checklist when drinking beer. I made a point of drinking beer with purpose. What I mean by that really is to drink the beer, review the beer, the aroma, the colour, the flavour, etc., the alcohol levels, all of those things, and really train your senses in those areas. Of course, that's also a good preparation for the tasting exam, which I'm taking in a few months. Using the check sheet is actually a good way to not jump to conclusions immediately, I found, at least. But it isn't that easy to do that. When we see a beer, we automatically think, okay, that's a type of beer, generally from the colour. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. I was presented with a beer doing my taste training, which could have been one of two styles, and immediately in my head I said, that is the beer, because of the colour. I made that determination consciously. It just came into my mind, and as I'm analysing the beer, smelling the beer and drinking the beer, it became a little bit more apparent that was actually correct, and it was correct. I got the beer correct. but I couldn't get it out of my mind that it might be the other beer. It was a little bit off-putting through the process actually, and then sitting and analysing it afterwards, I realised then how much that I had to kind of look through the ingredients and really analyse the beer, and then come to a logical, informed conclusion at the end. But it isn't an easy thing to do. The BJCP homebrew fault list sheet as well is very useful. It was useful for me, to understand the off flavors, certain off flavors. It isn't only good for that, of course. It's also good for understanding how to prevent it. Certain off flavors, which helps in the serving and handling portions of the exam, but also partly into the brewing aspects of the beer. What process would those faults come into the brewing process? That also expands your brewing knowledge, if that's an area that you need support in, of course. The draft beer quality manual is of course very important, as it was in the beer server exam. I read through that again, and some of the things that we need to understand, I made sure was ingrained. Not everything stuck, of course, but it's definitely something you need to consider. And then there are a lot of online resources out there again as well. One of the ones I kept going back to was the Pat Fahey YouTube series on tasting together. That was useful. I'm continuing that in preparation for my tasting exam, of course. But he also goes through exam tactics, which is important and interesting. Style discrimination is also interesting to really understand differences in styles that are very similar, and how to pick out those characteristics. So that's definitely useful, and also some of the food pairings that he talks about in those discussions as well. The other one that I like very much, and I've gone back to a couple of times, is the Cicerone Presents Beer and Cheese Pairing. It's a panel discussion hosted by Jen Blair, and that's quite a good resource as well to really understand, again, food and beer pairing, but specifically with cheese. And that brings out some of the characteristics that the beer has over maybe some other beverages when we pair beverages with food, which is of course very interesting in general. And of course the Certified Cicerone program, subscribe to their channel. There's always things coming out of that group, which is very, very interesting and very useful as well. The other thing, of course, is the brewing process itself. Now, fortunately for me, I am a home brewer. I've been a home brewer for decades, so the brewing process for me is fairly set. So I didn't really need to study a huge amount about that. But there are a lot of information online about brewing beer, the basic steps, and how to use ingredients, to turn those ingredients into the lovely beverage that we all enjoy. And that also helps to understand the brewing process a little bit. There's so much out there, but definitely if that's an area that you're interested in, check out some of the YouTube channels, of course including my own as well, that have a lot of information about the brewing process, some of the fundamentals of brewing, etc., etc. And then all the other podcasts and things out there. So that's just really a roundup of what I did to prepare for the written portion of the Certified Cicerone exam. It worked for me. Very happy with my 88% pass on that, including a 97% pass on beer flavour and evaluation, which I was extremely happy about. That gives me a little bit more confidence going into the tasting portion of the exam, of course, but by all means, I'm not sitting back on my laurels there. I'm working very hard to make sure that I get as good a score as I can for that. But I hope this has been of interest to you, and I hope maybe this helps you on your journey to become a certified Cicerone. If you've got any questions, or you want to also throw some advice into the video comments and whatever, you're very happy to receive them. Well, I hope you found the video and the information contained in there of interest. I hope you found it useful for your own Certified Cicerone journey. I will also be recording what I'm doing for my tasting exam, and I'll be putting a video up on that once I get through the exam, hopefully, at least fingers crossed. So please remember to check back on that. If you enjoyed this video, please like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I very much look forward to interacting with you for the future. Good luck with your own Certified Cicerone journey, and look forward to interacting with you soon. If you like what we're doing here at Something About Beer, please subscribe and give the video a like. It really does help the channel out a lot. And don't forget to ring that bell so that you're alerted to new content we put out.